Hi everybody, and welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today everyone, I'm going to be sharing with you my perspective on Saturn Sagittarius and just giving you some information about what's going to be transpiring for this whole entire cycle, and probably how to best take advantage of what to do as we move through this Saturn and Sagittarius cycle. I feel like it's quite an important one. Of course, all of them are. So that's not to say that there's anything really significant about this one in the sense of, wow, this is going to be different. But there is a point that Saturn will make within the Saturn Sagittarius transit that I feel will be felt on a very deep collective level, and yet if you're awake to it, you'll see it very blatantly. If you're not, it will just bypass in a very subtle sort of way. So that's what I mean by that process. Okay, so Saturn and Sagittarius, what are we dealing with here? Saturn will be in Sagittarius from 2014 until 2017. Okay, Saturn went into Sag on the 23rd of December 2014. And it stopped and then moved retrograde on the 14th of June 2015, and that's where it then transited back into Scorpio. And now we are today at the 19th of September, and Saturn went back into Sagittarius on the 17th, and that's where it will actually stay until the 20th of December 2017. Okay, now, in terms of the retrogrades, Saturn will retrograde first on the 25th of March 2016, and then it will go direct on the 16th of August 2016. Okay, now between now and then, that will be the retrograde period of time. Once we get into that year and I update a video regarding that, we'll look at the retrogrades the following year. Okay, so firstly, what we've got to understand when we're dealing with the archetype of Saturn moving through Sagittarius is first, what is Saturn? So let's begin with Saturn. Okay, the best way that you can understand the intuitive or get an intuitive grasp of what Saturn represents, it is boundaries and limitation. Okay, boundaries and limitation, and the idea here with Saturn is to, in some way, shape, or form, reflect to us where are our limitations that we have constructed, okay, within ourselves, within our consciousness, and of course as a collective. All right, if you watch the flower of life manifest itself as it's singular and then into the Vesica Pisces, etc., as it manifests itself, at a certain point it actually starts to create a natural the words I want to use was cage, but it's not the truth. It creates a natural matrix, a natural limitation. And so, or should I say a square? It creates a natural square at a certain point. And the reason why this manifests itself is because of the geometry. But what's happening is that in order for consciousness to understand itself or to experience itself, it would need to have something to reflect back to it, the nature of itself. And so Saturn is a representation of the natural squares or reflections that take place in consciousness in order for it, or structures, in order for it to understand itself. Okay, that's what Saturn is. So consciousness exists within the construction of itself, and it understands itself due to the limitations, or should I say boundaries, that it naturally creates. Okay, so it acts as like a framework. That's what Saturn would be. It's that framework. And then inside the framework exists consciousness. Right. Now, when you expand your consciousness, you naturally then start to expand your limitations or boundaries or definitions. Let's put it to you that way, and from the psychological perspective. I'm going to backtrack a little bit here and talk about consciousness in itself. It naturally forms this, it expands itself. So as consciousness expands itself, so does these natural limitations. They get bigger and bigger. Which is why, for instance, as a baby, you have a very limited vocabulary, And the reason why this is the case is because you're still trying to identify objects in your environment, and then through your relationship with those objects, you start to then give them representation definitions. And as much as your consciousness is open through being the baby, as it were, the expression of that consciousness is limited due to those physical definitions that are not present. And as obviously you expand your consciousness and expand your awareness and so on and so forth, so does your awareness of the world become more visceral. Okay, so the same thing happens again here with Saturn and its interconnectedness with consciousness. So Saturn is the framework. Okay, it's the boundaries that naturally create. And another way to actually understand Saturn is this crystal over here. Okay, can you see that this is crystallized? All right, so some can say that this is crystallized energy. So what we have here is the formation of Saturn. Saturn is the crystallization of something. Okay, and so therefore it correlates to the bone structure. Okay, it correlates to the skin. Again, limitations. The body exists within the skin, etc. It holds it together. And then, of course, the crystallization of the bone structure. And so what Saturn represents is, from a karmic perspective, in terms of spiritual journey, it reflects to you the nature of your karma relative to experiences that have happened to you. So it's crystallized experiences that then, when you interact with, it reflects it back to you regarding that experience. And this is kind of like the interaction between the moon or Cancer and Saturn. You know, Saturn or Capricorn and Cancer is the archetype of the inner self and the crystallized version of that inner self in an existential world. That's why through normal astrology they will reference the 10th house to be the archetype of career, because we as human beings have identified ourselves as through our career, which of course in some way, shape or form is slightly off-putting, because that's the externalization of consciousness, and so therefore identity is then caged or crystallized in something. I am an astrologer. No, you're not. You're an infinite being of consciousness expressing itself momentarily in human form, and your expression of light is defined through the spectrum and language of astrology. And so there's a massive difference, because there's expansion that is taking place in terms of your awareness. You're not identifying with a specific paradigm entirely, because that's not what you are. You're just engaging in that universe, and then it gives you definition in order for people to interact with, i.e. reflection. I'm going off on a tangent over here, but you understand the point that I'm trying to make. So crystallization, okay? Saturn will also correlate then to the center of gravity that exists within ourselves, how centered we are, and the nature of how we then respond. Or do we respond to things in a way that is mature, or do we respond to things in a sense that is, or do we react? So again, it's that response-react archetype that is part of Saturn, okay, or Capricorn 10th house, the astrological signs. So it's the center of gravity. And so you can imagine that whenever Saturn transits in your birth chart, it's bringing the center of gravity down like this. And that's why everybody pays attention to Saturn, because in the birth chart, it's the most interactive thing that you experience, because it's the slowest thing in your life in context or in relationship to your awakened consciousness. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean that this is becoming a Saturn lesson. I mean that the expression of Saturn itself being so slow moving in that way, and of course we'll get on to the nature of time because it correlates to time, as it moves like that, the energy is being drawn to that process. And when you are interacting with it, you are interacting it from the perspective of the human ego, okay? The definition, the body. So therefore, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune move very slowly, and yet it is more of an intuitive understanding that one needs to interpret through those planets, whereas with Saturn, it's very visceral, it's there, it's the physical reality that we present, we interact with, because it's our limitations, it's our boundaries, it's our sense of where we are able to perceive from the physical body. So as Saturn moves through a constellation, or Saturn moves through a house in your personal birth chart, it will draw physical awareness to that place, and you'll experience it slowly moving through that period of time. That's why the Saturn return is a very difficult period of time for many people, because they don't understand that it is a time of deep reflection, and the slowing down is the necessity to awaken to your spiritual nature through inner reflection, and then, oh, okay, this is what I really am. Okay, so it brings everything to attention with Saturn. It brings it into attention, brings it into focus. All right, and then our responsibility is then to interact with that awareness that is being slowly drawn into our field of awareness, that we can have a physical representation of that. We can interact with it on a physical level using our senses and the nervous system in itself, and then respond to it in a way that liberates us from those imposed, outdated, crystallized definitions. So very simply put, Capricorn correlates to crystallized definitions that are of the past, and whenever Saturn moves in a constellation, a house, it will bring up those outdated definitions for you to then fracture and then bring back into a new direction relative to your interaction with the outdated definitions. Does that make sense? Sorry guys, but I like to give very large, big explanations for the nature of how stuff works. Okay. So now that we understand Saturn, let's understand Sagittarius. Now, what's interesting about Sag as an archetype, it follows Scorpio, naturally, and it is before the archetype of Capricorn. Right, Astrology 101 for Dummies. Now, in the context of that sextile between Scorpio and Capricorn, we need an inherent belief system that then we can use to be able to define the nature of our reality relative to the Scorpio lessons of there's more to life than what meets the eye. Okay, so Saturn, or should I say Capricorn, is defined reality. Scorpio is that process that we go through to realize that there's more to reality than just what meets the eye. And so therefore, in Sag, we shoot the arrow to explore the nature of what we've just discovered in Scorpio, which is, wow, there's so much more. So our curiosity, polarity point of Sagittarius as Gemini, leads us to start asking questions. Now, this is where the formation of the Sag archetype exists for us, which is when we ask the questions because of our curiosity, we then start to build what is called a cosmology. Okay? Cosmology. All right? Our philosophy, the roof over our sort of perspective of the nature of creation in itself, the roof that answers all the questions that we have about our existence on Earth. Okay, so Sag is then the cosmology that we use to understand and answer these questions. Philosophy, okay? Now, the polarity point Gemini induces that necessity to ask those questions, and the reason as to why that inducing is taking place is because of the Scorpio archetype of, I've just discovered the soul. Like, what is beyond this? What can I explore? Where are the things that are existing? And so therefore that then perpetuates this necessity to explore. So we have that archetype, we have the cosmology. But what does the cosmology do for us then? Once we sort of go, okay, we need a cosmology. Well, we need it because there's a sense of orientation. Where do I belong? Okay, so if you had a cosmology that was about, let's say, for instance, your cosmology was asking the deeper questions about the nature of reality, you would notice that your life would be very much invested in metaphysical studies, esoteric studies, really going into the occult, etc. And you would find yourself immersed with very powerful knowledge that would come from that process. And so let's say, for instance, you are somebody that just has the cosmology of, man, I just want to chill out. I just want to work at a bar, on a beach, and surf all day and enjoy the sun because the sun's rays rocks. The person's orientation towards the nature of life in itself, relative to the first person I mentioned, will be vastly different, because the questions that they are essentially asking okay, about the nature of reality and their curiosity and their sense of exploration will be defined based on the cosmology that is holding them, okay? So again, what's really, really important to understand in this process is that Sag is the cosmology we use to answer the questions. And inside the cosmology is the framework that we have to answer these questions. So if you're somebody that's wanting to explore the nature of evolutionary astrology, for instance, your cosmology relative to what that universe is about is very limited. And so therefore your awareness regarding how to answer the questions about your astrology chart in an evolutionary astrology way will be very limited, because that cosmology doesn't have the information in it that can answer those questions directly. So your job is to then expand your consciousness, expand your sense of awareness regarding that, and that's how you do that. That's what Sag is, that process of going, okay, I need to broaden my awareness. So it then naturally correlates to cultures. It naturally correlates to geography. It naturally correlates to land. It naturally correlates to transmigration of ideas. Now think about that very, very carefully in terms of the archetype of transmigration of ideas. Okay? Sag naturally sextiles Aquarius. Aquarius is ideas, groups, etc., etc. So the transmigration of ideas. In order for us to be able to look at our lives and go, oh, I wonder how they cook the pasta dish in Italy. Well, that's what Sag is. The question, I wonder. Therefore, the exploration occurs. You travel to Italy, for instance, and you notice that the way that they actually cook their or create their pasta dishes is remarkably different. They use a different technique. They do this, and all of a sudden you have an expansion of the nature regarding cooking food, for instance. Then you go to India, for instance, and you travel there at different cuisines, and you expand your knowledge on that process. So again, you understand the process of Sag being the expansion of consciousness through the transmigration of ideas. So you come from the States and you move to Australia and you interact with a culture that has different definitions. And this is where we lead on to Capricorn, is that Capricorn or Saturn then is the container that the belief system or cosmology exists within. In order for us to understand that cosmology, we need a container. So a country, for instance, a land mass, etc., a governmental system, has a cosmology, and it is then bound by rules. It is bound by law. It's bound by its natural laws. Okay? So in terms of Saturn moving through Sagittarius, we're going to become very, very aware through the slow motion archetype of Saturn, where our definitions regarding our philosophies, our belief systems, our cosmologies within ourselves have now or need to be liberated from, in order for us to then have a wider bowl, in order for us to now answer the bigger questions in life, as we've had this massive expansion occur for us in Saturn in Scorpio. We became awake to many, many things. So there's a massive need to destroy the crystallization of those outdated belief systems, and then start from there exploring new ground. So this is a magical opportunity to open up to new possibilities, open up to new learning opportunities. Go study, go explore something that you've never done before. Okay? And at the same time, allow yourself to get that information come through, allow yourself to get that information to come through to you in a way that really challenges what you believe to be true. Okay? Because again, Sag, as its connection to Pisces, will reflect the nature of reality from your perspective. Right? So I'm sharing my perspective with you today. It is not the totality of it. It is a perspective relative to my direct experience of things, which is, by the way, another Sag archetypal structure, is direct experience, direct knowing. Right? So again, as I said before, the direct experience, the truth that it is that you are going to be challenging, is inherently going to offer you the opportunity for liberation. Now, the dark side of this situation is going to come out for many souls, and that is that cognitive dissonance is going to take place for us, for many, many people, because you're going to start to see how many people are actually holding on to their belief systems as if it is finite, and as if it is the last thing that is on this plane, and if they let go of it, that's it. It's the truth. So you will notice that as this transit occurs, many of people that are interacting with this unawareness or non-awareness regarding the need to break free from their crystallized patterns of belief systems will find themselves being naturally triggered off, and in a way almost causing a sense of fanatical behavior. This is the only truth that exists. Nothing else beyond this realm exists. Why? And I want to actually bring up a slide for you to illustrate to you exactly how this operates. Here you can see the natural zodiac, and here you can see there's the archetype of Sagittarius, and I've actually drawn up a couple of lines over here to illustrate to you some of the things that I'm talking about. Now, the first lines that I really want you to pay attention to are these lines over here, okay? All right. So they're inconjuncts, quincunxes, and what they do is they influence the nature of the archetype, but the archetype itself does not see the influencing of that process. Okay. So Sagittarius, as I was talking about, was that holding on to the belief system. Okay. Now, the reason why that's the case is because inherently in Sag, there's a quincunx to the archetype of Taurus. And Taurus is that instinctual needs and survival archetype. Survival. Okay? And then Cancer is the other archetype of the ego. It's the consistency, and so therefore my security. And so what happens here is that the belief systems that people have, including myself, we naturally use to perpetuate the nurturing of our inner security needs as well as our feelings of survival. So again, for me, I use the language of evolutionary astrology to describe to you reality. And yet simultaneously, I also am holding on to that language as an opportunity for me to convey stuff, because simultaneously it is allowing me to be able to feel as if I'm actually heard, or that I have an ability to communicate the way that my consciousness thinks. And yet if that was taken away from me, I would feel somewhere inside of myself that my basic needs would be disappearing from that, because on one level this is my occupation, but on another level it is the identity that I identify myself with, Cancer, because I consistently do it, I consistently integrate it into my life, and it becomes the process of my identity, and that's how I relate. So you can see how deep this goes when you're understanding somebody and you're interacting with them and you're going, but you are the stars, you are this, you are that. And people go, no, I don't believe it, or, this is what the truth is. No, unconsciously, deep down inside, they might be carrying trauma, where disillusionment. They might be carrying parts of themselves that don't want to let go, because that's the only thing that they feel secure in. And of course, simultaneously, it does correlate to the need to create security. So Sag then will naturally promote the convincing and converting archetype of, I don't feel like it's really comfortable being alone in my belief system, and so therefore I'm going to share it or existentialize that with a group of people and convince them and tell them that that's how they got to think, so that I've got more people behind me to make me feel good about the nature of my belief system, which of course Saturn will bring through in this time. So know that as you move through this period of time, and you are interacting and you are able to remember and identify, it's very, very soothing, or offers an opportunity for therapy, to recognize that these people unconsciously are not realizing that it's actually stimulating their own security as well as identity. Okay? And that you can offer truth or liberation in a very subtle way. And that is to go and as to ask the questions. And that's how you expand one's personal awareness regarding their belief system, is to penetrate their belief system through questions. And that's the polarity point, which is reflected through Gemini. And if there's any person that knows the story, it's myself, because I have a Sag Gemini nodal axis. So I am learning about the nature of truth and the diversity of it, and so on and so forth in that way. So that's one way to fix that, is to ask the questions. Now, something that's also really, really important to recognize with this transit that will be taking place for us is the square from Pisces, or should I say from Sagittarius to Virgo. Okay? And this square is playing on two ways. when souls have not figured out that they are incarnating into this existence to return back to the source of creation through love, and there through the dissolving of duality, they will then come to this awareness that the relationship between Virgo and Sagittarius is the need to organize / efficient and become efficient at what is specific on my need for truth. What am I specifically trying to discover in my need for truth? So Virgo helps Sag discern what's important and what's not important, so that you don't find yourself just being completely and utterly overwhelmed with mass amounts of information and you've accumulated no knowledge or no wisdom because you haven't actually actioned any of that knowledge into your reality. You've just held it in abstract space. Simultaneously, if there is the separation consciousness and there is duality perpetuating through there, it will reflect on one level the crisis that emerges through conflict that comes from seeing people's belief systems as a opposing or a limitation relative to your own, i.e. religion, for instance. So you have one group of people believing this and other people believing that. My God is better than your God, and that we are divided. And so therefore there's a crisis that emerges through the separation of belief systems. And this, of course, is massive, perpetuated through the archetype of religion. And on some level, of course, that helps, but on another level, when people take it to the extreme and they are literally trying to convince and convert other people for their own security reasons, there is that crisis of losing perspective, losing the awareness that everybody's truths is relevant to their own through their direct experience, and that they've come to share things with us about the truth. But in order to push it onto people, reflects the duality, because it says that your truth is not respectful. And that Virgo square to Sag is going to come up massively in the next 2 years. You will see it, where you will see the divide. You will see the people that believe and the people that don't believe. You'll see the people that accept and the people that don't accept, and so on and so forth. Virgo also helps discern between dishonesty, because Sag correlates to the archetype of dishonesty through overcompensation or lying, through the square to Pisces and not feeling secure, and so therefore having to create alternate realities that exist in order to avoid the crisis in that way. So you will see dishonesty from authority figures, etc., start to emerge. We've uncovered the truth. Now we're going to see the lies become perpetuated through the Saturn and Sag story. So it's a big deal when it comes to that square over there. We will see it, and the need to heal that square, because this will correlate to the separation, or the abandonment issue that we all carry with us regarding incarnating onto Earth and going, why did God do this to us? No, you chose to incarnate. You've just forgotten about your connection to that, and that's the point. You're trying to reestablish it on purpose. So that square will be present. You will be seeing where that convincing and converting will take place relative to the security and the survival needs that will be coming out in that process. Now, Sag will make a trine, or makes a trine to Aries in this particular instance, and again, this trine will operate where there will be aggression projected into people regarding the need to follow one's own personal dreams, personal belief systems, but it will also reflect to us how we are pioneering new directions for us. And that's why I said, just find something new to learn, explore the nature of consciousness, challenge your inner security feelings, and expand your knowledge, because that is the source of all things, when you expand your knowledge and you integrate it into your life. Okay. Now, the reason why I've got a lightning bolt over there and a black dot was to illustrate what I was talking about earlier in the video, which was what's making this archetype, or should I say this transit, very significant. At between 14 and 18 degrees Sagittarius, the south node of Uranus exists for everyone on the planet. Okay. Now, I don't really want to give a massive lecture or a lesson on the south node of Uranus at this point in time, but just know that the south node of Uranus, or any south node for that matter, correlates to the prior life or ancestral or astral baggage that we carry as a collective. So the nature of reality, our truths, our perspectives, etc., all are contained in that South Node in Sag. And it reflects to us that through the separation from source and the feeling of abandonment through that process, and then obviously living in duality, we have created alienation within different belief systems. We have created the separation and the borders that exist between cultures and ideas. So Saturn will actually move over that period of time between the 14 and 18 degrees of Sagittarius, and it will bring to us the collective trauma that exists through our separation. So this is a big deal for us, okay? This is a very, very big deal for us, because the collective trauma is something that has not been digested. We have not processed it. So as Saturn brings itself closer and closer to these crystallized definitions and we need to liberate themselves, we are going to go through a period of time of recognizing how bad it's actually been, where we have separated ourselves from our brothers, from other people that we have perpetually seen as enemy, etc., etc. And on one level, this is also going to bring to us a big need to deal with our relationship with regards to nature, and how we have, in some way, shape, or form, all of us have aided in our, and I'm going to put it out there, I'm going to say, aided in the disposal and the distribution of crap that we have basically perpetuated through our laziness. Okay. For instance, do you consistently still keep on buying plastic bottles? Glass is so much better in that sense. Are you still using plastic bags when you're going to purchase your consumables? Do you have maybe a bag that you carry that you can use every single time you go to the store, that you don't have to use plastic bags then again? Are you conserving the way that you are doing things in your life? For instance, electricity and such like that. Are you, in some way, shape, or form, trying to grow your own food? And I don't mean in the sense that you have to be a master at it. I mean, just try it out. Like, limit your capacity to become reliant on the system that has got zero interest in the preservation of Mother Earth. And so on and so forth. Do you all these types of questions that come up, and please, by the way, these are directed at me. Okay, so it's not like I'm somebody that does the stuff and you don't. Now all of a sudden you have to feel bad about that. No, it's creating awareness so that we can become more integrated into this consciousness, so that we can then heal that collective trauma of separation from nature and natural laws, and the importance of interconnectedness and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I'm bringing that to our awareness, so that we can actually confront it and then in some way, shape, or form liberate ourselves from the dependency on the system. So there's quite a lot hanging over here in this particular instance. And as I tune into the South Node story again, I will obviously update everybody and share with you more about this story, what I feel into that process. Okay. Great, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you. I feel like it's come to a natural ending regarding what Saturn is going to bring to us as a collective, and how we can integrate that into our personal story. At the moment, I'm sort of trying to decide whether or not I should do a Saturn through the houses, so that everybody can get awareness of how that's going to affect you individually. But part of me also feels that it's like, because the context of each individual astrology chart is so complex, to do something as subtle as like, okay, Saturn in the first house means that for you, for your sign Taurus, I suppose in some way, shape, or form can shed light for you, but will it have that much of an impact? I don't know, because the chart in itself has got so much more complex karma to it. So that's why I don't actually do that, to be honest. And it's not because of anything other than that. It's just simply because, everybody's individual, and, Saturn could be in your first house and making no aspects whatsoever. And I give you information that then tells you how to go about this a certain way. And then a transit comes along and, disillusions you, and you've lost, you didn't see it coming. So that's why I felt the need to even share that for some random reason too. Other than that, guys, I will be attaching an article to this video at some point. I don't know when. I will be doing a Jupiter in Virgo video as well. Funny enough, it's going to be very, very succinct to the nature of obviously Saturn moving through Sagittarius, because they are opposed cardinal signs. I just remembered right now that I've got there are three actual major planetary alignments that are taking place. So I'm going to share that with you right now. Square Neptune, this is a big deal. This is a really, really big deal. It ties into the nature of the collective unconsciousness, going through an inner awakening, an inner journeying of our spiritual nature. We're returning back to source, and so on and so forth. So that square is going to perpetuate 3 levels. Let's go with the mundane. Governmental dishonesty, the savior complex. Straight away, we're going to be presented with the savior need, and everybody's going to externalize their consciousness and go, yes, we need to be saved. This is a false flag situation, because at the end of the day, you are your own savior, and humanity is its own savior, not some existential father figure that has put themselves in place in order for us to feel like we have a sense of security, even though it's complete and utterly rubbish. So that Saturn and Saturn square Neptune story is going to be the dissolving of the definitions, and then of course the rebirth of new definitions on an intermediate and more esoteric level. That's what's going to be transpiring for us. In terms of the collective unconsciousness process, it deals with not only the preparation that has taken place for the transition of the ages, and we're moving into the now I can't actually pronounce it correctly, so I use the age of Aquarius, but it's the Yuga cycle, the Dopari Yuga cycle, where we're transitioning over a period of time into the age of energy. This is going to take a period of time to transition into, so this is not an overnight thing. And of course, the collective consciousness needs to redefine the nature of its philosophy in order for it to, or cosmology, in order for it to understand the more dimensions of reality that exist outside what we have only discovered up until now through our darkness. So that Neptune square is going to be allowing us to dissolve the pre-existing construction of our reality, and then in order for us to then expand it, therefore including more of these dimensions of time and space, so that we can then explore what is really out there versus what we have only become aware of over the last sort of like 4,000 years, where we have had the Kali Yuga cycle of, complete and utter darkness. So that's a big thing. Saturn square Jupiter, again, this is going to be one of those situations where it's going to aid the need for Neptune's dissolving of definitions. Neptune correlates to the return, so therefore it's a dissolving. As you know, if you watch the what's the word I'm looking for? Everything has a center, and then from that center, everything spirals out. Okay, and Neptune is that point of entry that is the beginning, and is the point of entry that everything culminates to. That's why it's the last sign, Pisces. It is the ocean, everything, and it is the returning of the wave back to the ocean and itself through its journey. So it's the birthing process and the exiting process. So as I said, Neptune dissolves stuff, dissolving definitions. Jupiter square Saturn will reflect to us the crisis in our belief systems that have perpetuated our separation. And then, of course, finally, Saturn will also trine Uranus in this 2-year period. And that's important because, of course, that's the fire trine between Aries and Sag. And that will aid and facilitate our new direction of learning, the pronunciation of new exploration, new horizons to basically now start to be presented with us as this dissolving process happens. Now, part of that dissolving process is going to influence, again, a lot of people that are going to hold on to their belief systems. And as they hold on to them, it's going to stimulate the root chakra. They're not really going to be able to hold on to their beliefs as it gets stripped away from them. They're going to hold on to it as much as possible, which will cause fanatical fighting. So it's a very interesting period of time that we're going to go through regarding those 3 transits. Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I highly appreciate it. Check my website out for all of the stuff that I do over there if you're interested in learning astrology. Something new has emerged for me through that process, so please get in contact if you're interested in learning astrology. If you want one-on-one tutoring, I do that as well. as amongst the many other services there. And I've just recently uploaded a shop onto my website where I've attached all different types of workshops that I've done, and they're about an hour long and they cost about $45. And they just basically share different aspects of reality, you know, and so on and so forth. Some are astrological, some are not. So check that out as well, including a 5-part manifestation video series. That was really, really cool to actually do, to be honest. So yeah, that's up there as well. Don't forget the membership for Raising Vibrations. There's a video attached to this showing you what it's about if you're a newcomer to this. And yeah, other than that, guys, thank you so much once again for watching this video. I highly appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe and share this stuff as much as possible. Have a fantastic evening.
Simon from
Bye-bye.
Raising Vibrations Astrology. And today I'm just going to quickly share with you some information on a membership program that I'm currently holding on my website, and what it is that I offer. So what I would like to do is just show you precisely what I'm actually offering and why it is that I'm encouraging everybody to participate in this experience. And the first thing that we're going to do quickly is go to the website raisingvibrationsastrology.com, and you'll come to the main page, which looks something similar to that. If you've just watched the YouTube video, that will be present in the link. The link will be in the description below. Okay, so you go to memberships over here and you click on that. And what you have is 3 options. Okay, I have 3 options here available. I've got a 1-year subscription, a 3-month subscription, and a 6-month subscription. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's like a gym membership for your spiritual growth, basically. And every single month I use the new and full moons as opportunities for us to come to a point in space within our lives and hold space within ourselves regarding soul growth, soul growth, basically personal empowerment. Okay, and so this is what the main idea about the membership is. So the same thing that you do when you go to the gym, you go there to train, to work out, to strengthen your body, and so on and so forth. Well, this is something that's more of a spiritual gym. Okay, so what I would like to show you is the options. The 1-year membership is a $285 experience, okay, which gives you about $626 over the whole entire year in terms of what you get from it, plus the discounts. So you get a 15% discount on all readings, all webinars and workshops that I hold. And every single month you get a full and new moon video, which is about 45 minutes long. Okay, these updates every 2 weeks. And they really go in depth. And there are 2 on my site already, as I've just recently started this. So you can actually go ahead and have a look at what those entail once you've got the membership. And I'll give you a quick sneak preview of what it looks like. You also get access to 3 current MP3s that I have on my site at the moment. That is the Saturn return, Saturn and Sagittarius, and a personal empowerment MP3. And you also get your Pluto house sign. Okay, it's a 45-minute MP3 that's specific to you. And in that video, I talk specifically to how to access your soul's journey and what it's about and why it's there, etc. And then on your birthday, you get a live solar return reading. Okay, so that's what the 1-year membership is. It's a fantastic package in the sense of what I give in terms of what you give back to me in return. And so that's what that is. The 3-month membership is something where it's $55, and you basically get the new and full moon reports every 2 weeks, and you get access to the 3 MP3s. Okay, the 6th month is $95. And again, the same thing, discounts on all readings, webinars, workshops, and of course you get the full and new moon updates, right? Access to the 3 MP3s, and of course your Pluto house and sign. Okay, now once you've actually signed up and made your payments and subscribed to the membership, you'll have access to these 3 tabs: MP3s, full moon and new moons, workshops, and your solar return. When you click on the solar return, it will take you to a place where you go and book that in on your birthday, of course. And then whenever the new and full moons are ready, which will come out alongside the articles, because that's what the articles are for. The articles, as I can see over here, let me just show you, astrological updates, new and full moon reports, and yeah, they are. Okay, and so what the updates do is they take all the information that I've written and I distill it. I put it into something that is really workable for you. Okay, so I take it one step further. So that's what you'll do. You'll go to that, you'll read the article, and then you'll watch the new and full moon update, and it will give you this grounded perspective. Okay, and you can click on that over there. Now, of course, this is restricted access. Maybe I can log in. No, I haven't lost my password, so I'll just log in. Let's see. There we go. And so there's the new and full moon that's available to you at this point in time. And the next one will be coming up soon. Fantastic. Well, I really hope that inspired you in some way, shape, or form to feel like this is a commitment you can make. I will honor it, of course, all the time when it comes down to the new and full moon reports and your MP3s and solar readings. So if this is something you're interested in, go ahead, click sign up, and it would be lovely to actually have you participating in this experience. Until then, take care.